Grace and peace, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Seminary on Berean TV. We're going to be going over a couple of different things. I got some of the family here with me, and we're going to be sharing some things dealing with the conscious community. We're going to vet a video that was sent to me, and I think inside of this video is basically all of the conscious community doctrines wrapped up basically in one video, and we're going to vet some of that. We're going to go through that, and we're going to talk about context. Why is context important? Did anybody see the video with the Covington guy and the Israelites and the Native American? Did anybody see that?
I seen that video.
What do you think about that when we start talking about context and everything? What do you think about that?
Um, when you deal with the context, they definitely created a narrative that wasn't accurate. Like they said things happened that didn't happen, and pretty much they was able to make a panic out of a falsehood.
And a lot of times when it comes down to it, people don't understand that the media has control. Whoever sets the narrative, it's who's setting the tone for the thing. And this is the reason that a lot of people feel that whoever wins out with the history is the one that writes the story, writes the history, or however the thing came out. Now, there was a couple of people that were involved in this. Who saw the entire video? And I want to hear y'all thoughts on that, because this can take us straight into the vetting of the video that we're going to do. You saw this video, Sister E? If you did, what do you think about it?
I mean, I saw all of the video. It had a bunch of things going on, and in context of what's going on now. That's what I got from it. On one end, you got the kids from the school, and then you have the Native American guys, and then off to the side, you have the black Hebrew Israelites. So I got a chance to see it, and it was a lot to take in. It was a lot.
You saw this, Harris. What do you think about what the media did with it? Because at first, no one saw the Israelites, to be honest. At first, there were a lot of people just looking at the picture, and they saw the young boy smirking whilst the native elder was beating his drum in front of him. They didn't know what was going on, but people were just quick to start making their comments. And what made it worse was to make America great again, the hat. He was wearing the hat, and people just took it, and they started to run with it. What do you think about that, Harris?
Actually, I did not see any of the video.
Elder, anybody else? T? Anybody else saw any of that video?
I didn't see any media coverage on it because I was disinterested in what the media had to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did watch most of the video. And I would say that for me, a couple of things, right? So I had questions as to why the Hebrew Israelites were out there, what their intentions were in going out there in the first place, what they thought it was versus why they thought the white students were there. And so just a lot of questions that I had, just regarding it.
Apparently the Israelites were there first. Putting in
Right.
their work. You know what the Israelites do. A lot of people see them throughout the country. They're on the corner. And the thing that kind of got me is it's so crazy because now they wanted, a lot of these camps, they wanted the spotlight. Now they done got on CNN. They got the spotlight. But the problem is, did they get the spotlight in the right way? They're using the N-word. They calling people coons. They disrespected the Indian. They disrespected the black person. They disrespected the white kids. And a lot of people are looking at it like these people are crazy, but these are the prophets. These are the men of the Most High that's speaking for God. So now all of America has seen this thing, and they're thinking. Matter of fact, one station said there were black preachers. They didn't even clear it up and say it was Israelites. They were black preachers. Now that's kind of what got me, because now anytime someone of African descent brings up a European Jesus, it seems like they'll lump us all together, because people tend to do this. This is what people do. They'll lump people together and they'll just go ahead and run with the story. And we already know the whole atmosphere is charged as far as racism and this and that, and people just jump into conclusions. Now, what's bad is when you're dealing with journalism, when you're dealing with the media, there's certain things that we expect. We're living in the age of information. Everybody has a computer in their hands, literally in their hands, where we can Google and check things. The media could have checked the thing out. They could have vetted the video, but they just saw something, they put it up there, and they went ahead and ran with it. So if the media is running with stuff, imagine regular people. This is part of the problem that we're having in general with apologetics and trying to sit down with other groups and talk, far as the Kemetic community, far as Israelites, or people are just posting things, they're putting up memes and they're just throwing things out, and everybody want to get their points across, but a lot of people aren't checking their information out. What do y'all think about that? I think that's part of the problem with the conscious community, but at the same time, I want to ask y'all, do y'all think that's part of the problem in the church also? Not checking the information out. Some people say, y'all just blindly follow that Bible. You don't know where the Bible came from. You don't know who edited that book. It was written and rewritten. And this is where a lot of the problems can come in with who's putting out the information. Are they putting out, like CNN, are they putting out all of the information or the right information that they should put out? Are the preachers putting out the right information and all of the information? Y'all seen me on my rant. I said, I promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. That's my new promise. The players in the video were Israelites, the Covington Catholic kids, and the Native American. But they just, majority of the media made it just about the Covington, the Catholic kids, and the Israelites, and that's kind of the problem. Anybody, the floor is open right now. Anybody on anything that was said so far or what they seen?
I think from what I got from it, we got a broken picture of what truly went on.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a bad picture of other aspects of it. I think the guys on the street corners, the Hebrew Israelites, gave a poor picture of some of the good guys that are actually teaching and aren't teaching in a way that's against the Word of God, and they're not teaching in a hostile, hateful manner. So that gives a bad light for not only, like you said, the Israelites, the Hebrew Israelites, but also of the Black pastors. They found the most negative, stereotypical concept of what that could be and said, okay, we're going to put it on TV. Rather than
and now, I'm sorry, and now the young lady, I think she was from CNN too. I see somebody post that on Facebook. She said the black supremacists. Now they calling them black supremacists. If the feds wasn't watching before in all them videos, trust me, the feds are watching now. And like I said, they lumped anybody together. So automatically now, like I said, if you get on YouTube, if you get on Facebook and you start talking about a white Jesus, you're going to be lumped together with the CNN video and those people that they consider black supremacists. Maybe white, you can read what's coming up in the comments. I can't see all of that. Let me stop this right here and slide over to that other thing. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. The floor is open, y'all.
Yeah, there's nothing in the comments right now.
Huh?
There's nothing in the comments to read right
Okay,
now.
all right, I'm going to show you something in the midst of that, because all of this stuff, context and understanding something in context, all of this has to do with what we're going to look at just in general with believers and how believers share certain things and understand certain things. This video was sent to me. I said, I did a little something on it, but I didn't post it publicly. I just sent it to certain people that are, that's down with the ministry, to support the ministry or whatever. But we're going to vet this video together. This brother here in the glasses is a Christian, and the dread is talking to him. Brother Kingston. That's this brother's name right here. It looks like it's in an art store or something. I remember we used to go to A&B bookstore, and we used to, people used to lecture after the store is closed or whatever, different places, Nostrand Avenue, Fulton Street, and people would lecture afterwards and deal with certain topics on African history, Europeans, and how history came down to us. That's why I started with the covenant thing, because a lot of people don't know that we are influenced by the media and the way the media portrays it. This is an excellent example of how the media just showed us one thing and it was so much more. And this is a serious problem with the media and how the media's been feeding us information. I'm going to play the video and I'm going to stop and I'm going to go, or we're going to deal with certain teachings, and I'm going to stop, like I said, at certain points and just listen. Tell me if y'all hear this good.
So what I'm saying is that you're going to tell me that you civilized me and I should believe that bullshit?
Excuse the language.
I'll put it to any one of them any day of the week. Get real. Because I'm a realist. And I'm going to teach you where you come from. You come from in a cave. And that's where you belong. Because
who's that right there? What are we hearing right there? As soon as you start hearing somebody talk like that, what are you hearing, Archie? You said you come from the cave. And I want to say one thing before anybody answers. I want to say one thing. Our perspective has to deal with our background, how we look at certain things. We have to know the people that we're dealing with. A lot of people in the conscious community are like myself. My first contact with white people was with the district attorney, was with law enforcement, was with correction officers. That's my first contact. But there's other people that grew up like my children. They grew up on blocks with European neighbors. They went to school with Europeans, or my daughter, mostly Europeans going to school with, and so she have a different context of how she see things. She automatically know every white person isn't bad because she had white friends. But when you come from a contact like myself or some European suburban police officers that grew up in the suburbs and come and work in the hood, when they come to the hood, the only contact they come in with is people of the criminal element, we can say. And the only contact I came in with people inside of law enforcement. So can that twist your thinking? Can that twist your perception? Or that's just from your perspective as you speak? The floor's open. The floor's open.
Yeah, I think that your upbringing is ultimately going to shape your vision of reality. And you have to actually make a conscious effort to see outside of that. And so, yeah, absolutely, he's going to be talking from anybody's going to talk from how their reality is shaped through the lens of their understanding of reality.
When it comes to talking about Europeans and redlining, Jim Crow, and a lot of stuff, some people say, listen, you don't need to even talk about that because that was then and this is now. Other people tend to lump it all together. Do you think that's one of the reasons, Sister E, maybe that the pastors don't even want to deal with the race thing because it's a touchy subject and the atmosphere is already charged? Because they get upset with some pastors like Al Sharpton. Oh, he's a race baiter and this and that. And a lot of pastors don't even want to touch the subject because it's a hot potato. Why more black pastors don't discuss race and race relations in America?
Like you said, because it's such a touchy subject due to the pulse of the nation right now. I think a lot of people have a lot of hidden animosity. And now with this new president in office, whatever was hidden now is in the open. So anything fuel something that could be, I guess, catastrophic to this nation. So pastors now trying to ensure that their congregation stays cool-headed while others are doing otherwise. So that's my thought.
And I got to also put out there, just like people were talking about the media and how the media did with the Covington kids and this Native American and the Indian and the Israelites. Remember last week, we were already talking about the gatekeepers. A lot of people in the conscious community feel that the pastors are nothing but the gatekeepers, or what Clarence 13X and them call it 10%. They know what's going on, but their job is just to calm the folk down and just listen. Just so pass like a police shooting. Just pass by. Don't worry about it. Calm everybody down. That's the first thing. The police shooting. The pastor's going to come out there and try to calm everybody else down. They feel. Anybody else before I continue with the video? We're hearing consciousness. Huh?
Yeah. Do you think it's a possibility that people just haven't been exposed to the type of information being discussed enough to have that conversation in a civil manner, and because they don't really have examples of that being done, the only way they know to have the conversation is in a heated manner, and they avoid that confrontation?
That could definitely be it, because I'm beginning to notice right now, being that I was involved in this conscious teachings and been reading Ben for 25 odd years, a lot of people, I'm shocked at the amount of people that don't know Ben, Dr. Ben, don't know Ivan Van Sertima, don't know Sinetta. I'm shocked at the amount of people. That's how come I know that this year Christians going to be in shock, because more and more information is coming out. I don't care what the pastor's been doing, what people have been holding on to. I'd rather people hear it from the believer side before it gets out there and they start hearing it from SETI, plain and simple. We got to vet all information, and we often would say certain things, Wilson. We'll say, do unto others. Now, I'm going to let y'all hear the testimony of Ray Hagan from the horse's mouth, how he got a hold of Sir Wallace Budge and heard about an Egyptian resurrection and everything. So I think there's a lot of information that people haven't even been hearing. That's how come they can't deal with certain conversations. A lot of people, all they can say is, won't he do it? Ain't God good? Won't he do it? And quote Bible. Now, believers would hear this and be upset because they feel that that's what you're supposed to say. What do you think about that, Harris? You don't have to say, won't he do it in every conversation.
I believe what the pastors deal with is a lot of political strongholds that's placed on the church. They're afraid of losing either a membership or some credibility that they feel they may be entitled to, meaning that they can be forced to deal with scrutiny through laws or whatever. They can say something wrong way, or it can be perceived in the wrong way, especially the way media is set up now. They can be filmed while they having to speak or having a conversation with someone, with a congregation. They can be filmed, a videotape, then it can be easily placed on social media. And it can actually destroy their church with some things that may be edited so it can appear like we saw in our previous conversation, how it can be perceived as being something totally opposite of what the conversation may have been about. So we have to be careful as pastors, as ministers, as we do teach, because our own agenda is not what's at hand, but it's the agenda of pushing Jesus Christ forward. And that's why I believe that they really focus on salvation, focus on how to move their church forward, focus on how to build on their church. But then you have some, on the other hand, you do have some pastors that really don't care as far as putting that information out because it doesn't benefit them any as a pastor, or it doesn't benefit their church. So I believe that has a lot to do with it as well.
Sister D, you heard what he said? If you can, you can come to the microphone. Sister D, what do you think about that? KRS once said this week, he said you can tell the amount of people that can speak truth to power according to their paycheck. You think there's some relevant, there's something could be there? That a lot of people is really getting money can't speak truth to power in fear of maybe losing financially in some type of way. Maybe more athletes, besides passing, more athletes, more people don't want to speak truth to power because they can't, because it might mess them up, their career up, be it a comedian, be it anybody. That's how come people admire people like Muhammad Ali that would speak up, Dick Gregory and other people that would speak up. What do you think about that, Sister D, or anybody else?
I certainly do agree with what he said, and yes, that almighty dollar with the all-seeing eye on it has a lot of power in the church. I was thinking of also they're afraid of losing their 501c3s, and every few years you get this scare of going through the pulpits that there's going to be a new law that's going to pass, and the pastors are just afraid, like the brother just said, that they're going to lose their 501c3s. That's the main thing, because then they want to make sure they're getting those donations and contributions in. But
okay. All right, White, you got to keep an eye on some of them. We record this thing going up here, and they start talking. So you got to keep an eye on. I should have ran that down with you before, but all right, we got a few radicals right here. But that's a good point that you just brought out. Now, listen to what y'all are going to hear dealing with the conscious community. He's going to give us some. Huh?
I ain't finished yet.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I ain't finished. I want to throw in one more thing.
Come on, you already on the road. I hear ignorant anointing. Come on with it.
One more thing for Sister E, Church of God in Christ, okay? When you start finding those FBI files on the black churches down south and Church of God in Christ, back in the early 1900s, they were fearless back then when it came down to speaking truth to power. Our people were fearless. The women preachers, they were FBI files are all on it. It's public. You can get it now, but it blew me away. So what's going on now should not be frightening our men, our real believers. It shouldn't be. Yes, we got to deal with the Israelites and all of those crazy ones, but the church itself, it needs to have the same fearlessness and courage that they had back in the early 1900s when the FBI, like I said, was sending up spies up in the camp. I mean, I was shocked at what I read. And that's the Church of God in Christ, Sister E.
Now what's oh Lord, she got Sister E, Sister E, the Pentecostal Hebrew. Now the problem is a lot of people don't know what would make them think, White. What would make them think if COINTELPRO never stopped? What would make them think the FBI has changed their ways and what they were doing? They were gathering on King, they were gathering on Kennedy, they were gathering on Malcolm, they were gathering on what's my man with the Marcus Garvey and so many other people. So many other people follow everybody. If you're talking political, singing political, Bob Marley, any and everybody that they want to make a file on. They want to start watching certain things because they don't want a Messiah to rise up. They don't want a deliverer to rise up. Now, people think because they don't discuss COINTELPRO that the thing has definitely died out. What make you think they don't have Mr. Farrakhan phone tapped, other people's phone tapped out here? What would make you think that? Especially those that seem that they're speaking, like we would say, truth to power. But the church say this ain't about Jesus and I want to make my heaven my home. I don't want to really deal with that right there. Anybody else before I hit this thing? We're going to get into the conscious community discussions and the white man is the wicked man. And why certain people feel that whites are wicked. And like I said, remember perspective. If you grew up around European, you had European friends, or your first contact was with law enforcement or the legal system, etc. Anybody else?
I just want to say something real quick that I feel like, although sometimes it may feel like these conversations aren't happening, I do feel like the best method to get these conversations happening is through a dialogue and not necessarily through, maybe preaching it on Sunday. The reason is because, I've been watching, videos where, Hebrew Israelites have come into the church and, maybe have expressed some things that, and put out some doctrines that are false and people, they just nod and agree to it. And so I feel like, the best place to have those conversations are where you can have a dialogue where people can ask questions, can, have disagreements and not necessarily just have to, have that homily where you're just listening and you're forced to just listen.
Wilson, he's in ministry right now. Wilson was pastoring a church for a couple of years now, and recently stopped that, right? But Pastor, I want to ask you a question, Wilson. What do you think about that in general? What do you think about that? Will just said.
I agree with him. It's got to be discussed. It's got to be a discussion because it ain't one perspective on it. Everybody has a different view. Everybody has a different background, and everybody is seeing it from that background. So it's definitely something that has to be a discussion. Also, I want to add to that, there's a certain level of a victim mentality that's preached from the conscious community, if you ask me, where you gotta maintain your victimhood. You gotta maintain your victimhood in order to hold a position. And if you don't accept any responsibility for how you came in contact with Caucasians who happen to be cops, and it was in a negative light, then you're always gonna view them as the enemy for trying to do. All cops and all Caucasians are not bad people. Period.
That's correct. I agree with that 100%. Let me ask you a question. Do you think, I know pastors are supposed to protect the sheep and everything, but I often think sometimes pastors think that some people are dumb and they just don't want to put information out there, maybe to confuse the people. You think that maybe they're protecting them for that reason? They don't want them to hear too many different doctrines? I know a few Israelite brothers that feel like if the pastor would just come in there and give me the floor. Now, I said, what will make you think a pastor finna give you the floor in front of 500, 800 people? What will make you think he just come and just give you the floor just like that? But people feel that way. What do you think about that? They're trying to keep them from something, from searching. They think they're dumb?
I don't necessarily think that pastors think that the doctrine is that important. It's become an issue as of late because of the questions that it generates, but it ain't really for a believer in Christ Jesus. The information, if you're gonna go out there and witness against it, or you know, preach truth against it, and be willing to stand and take whatever they throw at you, then yeah, the information is absolutely necessary to have to be prepared to fight that battle. But outside of that, it really ain't important. And I don't understand why, if you consider somebody a false prophet, why would you let them in your pulpit? That doesn't make sense to me.
All right, I got you. Come on, Elder Harris.
I believe it's counterproductive, and they would see it as counterproductive. How in the world would it benefit a church for someone that is not a part of the membership, not a part of the body, to come before a group of individuals that you worked hard to build, to come and visit and worship there, over one conversation? Some would leave, instantly leave, and then others may contemplate it. Then you would have to work on building that right back up all over again. From a pastor's point of view, why would you place yourself in a position to lose some of the things that you worked so hard for? That's number one. Number two is, how would it be productive in any way for somebody to come and complain about situations and circumstances that does not provide solutions? Most people in those situations do not provide solutions. Now, if there was a work source that was modified in a way where it would help church members to come in, work, learn how to take care of themselves, how to build, how to buy houses, how to unify, how to do those things that are productive on a society level, maybe you don't have to be a part of a body, but it would benefit the church. Yes, I believe something like that if it's solution-based. But it's not solution-based. How would it benefit any pastor in that sense?
Okay, I'm not gonna even say anything, Sister E. Would you like to I see her drinking her water. Would you like to chime in on that before I get to the bottom? Because I'm gonna read something to Archie. Christianity strips you of true spirituality. I want him to twist that. I want you to meditate on that right there, because we get ready to get it in. But Sister E, would you like to comment on anything you just heard in the last 2-3 minutes?
I'll be nice, I promise. Now, the point with that is, I only think it's counterproductive because people do not want to come together and have the important conversation, especially in the Black community. Every pastor stands in their pulpit, not every, but some, stand in their pulpit with their egos to say, I'm not talking to the Israelites, because on the Israelite side, there is some truth. And on the pastor's defense as a Christian, there's some truth there. All of us are fighting to find truth. But I think if we as a community, and when I say community, as a Black community in the faith, being Christianity, if it be Israelite, if we don't come together, we're going to have situations that happened in, was it DC?
Yes. Where
you have those radical groups doing what they do. Because ultimately, that was the representation of the Hebrew Israelites, those guys. And that is totally far from what I know and what others know, as far as other individuals we follow.
Well, how does that make you feel seeing those guys? Do it make you want to separate from that? Because you feel you know truth that's not? Do you think the majority of Israelites believe what those guys said and use those words? Using the N-word, the coon word? You think the majority of Israelites, you don't think the camps? I'm sorry, let's separate the camps.
The camps. That's what we need to separate from, because you have individuals like Pastor Kelly, Pastor Majors, Pastor Omar, and even Darby that taught the faith, taught salvation, that teach these things that are fundamental in the Christian faith, but they believe in the Hebrew belief, as I do in some cases. Some of it is a little far off, but ultimately you have those individuals that are not getting seen.
Well, wait a minute. Another thing, I'm not sure how long a lot of them been putting in work, but we got to admit, Wilson, the camp, the Israelite ISUPK been putting in work for years. in the city of New York, here uptown in Harlem, and 42nd Street, 34th Street in the city. They've been putting a lot of work in. So the ones that really popularized the thing were the camps. Now, we had Messianics, but the camps really popularized it. What do y'all think about that before I...
But they brought in that One West doctrine. That One West doctrine is what is I don't want to say crippling, but it's giving a bad light to the good guys that don't follow in those footsteps. And in fact, fight against it. Those guys that I just named, they totally fight against the camps. They totally believe in Christ. They walk in the love of Christ. They believe in salvation. But because these guys are standing on the street, cussing folk out with that One West doctrine, are the ones that's killing the true movement of those guys that I follow.
I can't deal with you.
So I'm sorry. I said I was gonna be.
No. All right, we're gonna let it all out. We're gonna let it all out. Not next week. 2 more weeks from now, I'm gonna be opening up phone lines and everything. It's gonna be another level. So I'm glad we getting it all in right now. Y'all can vent all y'all want. Listen to what I'm saying right now. Everybody can see the bottom of that screen. Archie, Christianity has stripped you from true spirituality. You don't know you the original man. Grace and peace. I know I don't see that preacher rapper down there. Grace and peace, Mr. Grace and peace, Mr. Theologian.
Grace and peace, man. How you doing?
Spirituality. Good to have you, man. I'm glad you won. I couldn't even hit you with my broken screen on that other thing, but we praying to God do something. We gonna play the brother right now. He's dealing with a lot of conscious doctrine. You know, they feel a certain way about Europeans, and this thing has spread. This thing is out there. What are we gonna do with it? It's time for the church to understand certain things, especially us that are involved in apologetics in one way or another.
Yeah. Cave mentality. You always try to destroy nature. Black people don't try to destroy nature. You'll never see black people try to destroy nature. White man, the Chinaman, all of them try to destroy nature. When the Chinaman go fishing, he take a drag net and he drop it in the sea and he drag everything to kill everything. Whales, every fish that you can imagine, he take it and he trying to get everything out of the sea. The white man, he go try to cut down every tree in the forest.
All right, y'all heard what they said right there. They're blaming the white man for that. Jesus said, cast your nets. All right, let's put the book down for a minute, but Jesus said, cast your nets. This is part of the problem. I was just telling them on Mark Elder, I was just telling them before they came in, it depends a lot of times. People feel a certain way because it depends on the way they had contact first with European people. My first real contact with Europeans was with law enforcement. But everybody, my children didn't grow up that way. My daughter went to a school predominantly and still does now on predominantly Europeans. My son the same way. They grew up on the block, Asian business people across the street, Hispanic business people down the block, and Europeans on the block. It depends on the way you contact them. A lot of people were having a problem because a lot of people are trying to lump everybody together. Just like a European police officer would grow up in an urban area, he would turn around and come to an African-American or urban community. He'd grow up in the suburbs and start and just see the lowest of the community dealing with crime, dealing with drugs, arresting people, and they would feel a certain way because of their first contact. But what do y'all think about what he said? The Asians are out here destroying, Europeans are out here destroying stuff. The guy he's talking to is a Christian, and he's setting up as a conscious brother, he's setting up why whites are no good. The floor is open.
I noticed in West Africa, there are a lot of things that are being destroyed by people that look like me and you. So how does that come into play? We're selling each other out. I've also noticed that you have products that are leaving the country that say, for example, the rubber tree. How do you get a 99-year lease contract with the Chinese for rubber, and the rubber, as soon as it leaves the tree, it goes straight to the boat and it comes back as a product. It's never manufactured, it's never distributed, but it comes back. All these things happen before it even come back to Africa. So how does it benefit the country when you have raw material that you never really ever benefit from? Oil, coal, gold, and other minerals of natural resources are the same way. You only have 1 or 2 individuals that benefit from pulling these things out of the earth. So you talking about destroying the earth. I don't really get it. I don't really get that philosophy, because we're constantly doing that, especially in our motherland.
And we're expanding now. Jesus said, cast out your net. We have bigger boat. We have hoists. We can pull things up. And it just has to do with productivity. That's all that has to do right there. But I like what you said. Listen to what he said. I liked what you said because Malcolm felt the same way until he went to Mecca. People that aren't traveled or widely traveled or experience different things among different people and different cultures, it's easy. Some people say small-minded people or small traveled people. It's easier to fool them. You can say that, but you can't say that to somebody that's traveled, somebody that's building the military, that's been all over, that's seen different people, different cultures all over the world. You can't run stuff like that on them. Anybody else before I start the video?
I mean, and just to jump on your talk through your point, Brian, there's bad on both sides. My daughter grew up in a school that was predominantly white, and majority of the time she was the only black face in the classroom. But she saw genuine good people in the classroom, along with the ones that she didn't too much care for. With that, she later on went to a predominantly black school. So she saw both ends of the spectrum. So her mindset of race and color is the complete opposite of mine, where I predominantly throughout my life went to an all-black school. I think it's the environment that you put your kids in will be the end result of who they're going to be.
You heard what she said? All right. You heard what she said, Archie? Some people feel the mere fact that you keep bringing this stuff up, if you would let it go. Because children, they'll play with each other. They have to be tortured. Somebody has to bring these things up. So some people on one side, Archie would say, just let the thing go. Just stop talking about it. Other people like, no, it has to be discussed. You see what's going on? That's how come there's so much tension in the country right now. What you think, Miles? What do you think about that? You can jump in any time.
Brother Brian, I was also, in hearing what this man was saying, like it all too often we always hear things that start to, they're psychological games, right? They're here to play with our emotions and getting us more and more interested in the things of their doctrine, because of course you can see that there are some effects that white folks are doing to destroy us and to destroy the earth. But like everybody's saying, there's a general consensus that yes, we all agree that there's some things going on, but we can also look at other demographics. So majority culture, yes, they're going to be the majority of what we see, as an issue and a cause. But, as Brother Harris said, you can go to Africa and see the same thing, but since they are the majority people, they all look the same, and they all look like us. Those are the people there that are causing the issues in Africa. And so, like I said, I think, ultimately, most people are going to play psychological games with you if you allow them to get that foothold to play on your emotions to initially get you interested in the doctrine that they're selling.
Okay.
Another thing is this, man. He's talking about the Asians cast their nets and take all the fish, and the white man cut down trees. Now when we look at the book of Genesis, that's what the earth was. The earth was for us to subdue and to have dominion over the animals, over the earth. And so when God told Noah to build the ark, what did he use? Right? He had to cut down trees to build the ark. When God told Moses how to build a temple and how Solomon built the temple, he used a bunch of trees to do this. You see what I'm saying? And so these things that's why God gave us reproduction, right? So to subdue the earth. And so when we take up fish, there's other fish that's going to reproduce. There's going to be more fish. You see what I'm saying? When we cut down trees, we can plant seeds. There's going to be more trees. You see what I'm saying? And so I think that's like that point that he made was kind of like null and void. It really didn't make any sense. This is how the white men are destroying the earth because he's cutting down trees, and this is how the Asian men are destroying the earth because he's casting his nets and he's bringing in fish. I mean, it doesn't really make sense.
Excellent point. Excellent point he brought up right there. Another thing is too, now where's that coming from? Mother Earth, we don't want to tear up Mother Earth. We love Mother Earth and the trees are alive and all of this stuff like that. Where's that coming from? I'm just throwing that out there, but we're gonna discuss some of that in closing. I just wrote that. I just want to point that. There's Sister D, anybody else before we continue? Because he got a lot to say and he got some good points. Mark, you see at the bottom, right? The main thing is Christianity stripping you of true spirituality. You're going to case. Go ahead, Wilson.
Also, when we discuss this, like I think it would be really beneficial to not use vast generalizations and say white people as if every white person everywhere has the type of power to do what's going on. Excellent. And start being more specific. I don't think race plays a part because there is a majority group of people who does hold the power, but at the same time, the capitalistic ideology, or the get all you can and can all you get ideology, is ultimately the root cause of it, because everybody just trying to make as much profit as they possibly can rather than actually caring about each other and doing the things that would benefit the earth rather than our pockets and bottom line. So I think a good way to deal with this conversation is to call out the companies and the people that are doing it rather than saying white people, because there's some white people out here struggling just as much as we are, that live in our communities, that's got to deal with stuff that's being discussed based on the color of their skin. And the truth of the matter is, I don't care what nobody say, spirituality, intellectualism, ain't no race to all of that stuff. We've got people in all walks of life who have intellect and truth. So we can't act like that is specific to one people group for any particular reason. We got to address things specifically and not use these vast generalizations.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Anybody else? All right, I'm gonna let it play for a little while. He's saying something, but y'all already know how he feel about Europeans and what's going on. Let's get it in.
Documentary stating that they're the only ones with Neanderthal blood. We don't have that.
Look here. The only people on this planet that are fully human is black people. And that's a fact. There's a European guy. He's studied these things. He says when he did the test on the Chinese, he did it on the whites, he did it on the blacks. The only people that he finds to be full human on this planet is black people. White people got human DNA, Neanderthal DNA, and canine DNA. That's why.
All right, what do y'all heard what's going on right here? Now they did report that they found among Asians and European traces of Neanderthal. That was reported. I think that was almost 2 years ago. What does that have to, if any, what does that have to do with anything? The canine thing, I never heard of that. I'll look into it. Maybe he got something. I've never heard of that. Because you remember these people are a mix of truth with a lie, or fake news with the truth. What do y'all think about that?
I would want to know what is his source. And for me, it wouldn't have nothing to do with the price of tea in Japan with this conversation.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
Another thing, man, is so it's almost like you pick and choose of what you can take from white people, right? It's like I don't want to take any literature or any scholarship from a white source, right? But I can take science that this white, like he said, this European did this testing on biological testing or whatever, and he came up with this.
If it supports your point, if it supports his point.
Yeah, and you take it when it supports your point, but then anything else you throw it away. Oh,
and
scholarship.
Why would you take it from a devil if they are devils?
Right. That's inconsistency.
All right. Anybody else? So the D jump in, you're gonna hear something. All right. So all right. Let me see. Let me keep going.
Always with a dog, my friends.
All right, I'm gonna stop right there. I'm sorry. I'm gonna stop right there for my dog lovers. He said that's why white people always with a dog. I know some black folk. I don't know about y'all, but I know some black folk love their dogs. I was in the church last summer. The dog was up in the pulpit. Them other people, they said the dog is a prophet. I said, oh Lord Father, if you don't help me now with these people right here. But what do y'all think about that? That's why white people always have dogs, because they have dog DNA. So he just claimed he was saying something scientific, and then he jumped to something like that. Anybody before I go on?
That's crazy. I have a dog. That has nothing to do with
you. A dog lover. You light skinned though. You might have some European in you. And All right, that slipped out right there. But these are the things that they begin to say. And but the problem is, Mark, more and more people are running to this. Like, oh man, he's making more sense. He's dealing with reason and logic and not with faith. I hope we get to Ray Hagen and the rest of this here. I want to show y'all something.
See, and that's why I tell people I don't believe in God, because these same people, if you look at the word dog, turn it around and what do you get? It's dog. The creator, how are you going to create the creator? God? No, the creator, what name you going to put on it?
Where that come from right there? I wish Wilson to tell me where that come from right there. Dog spelled backwards. 5%ers used to love saying that back in the days.
Also, Brother Berea, ain't Anubis the form of a Doberman Pinscher?
Oh man, just as talking about said, I'm gonna do the video with a couple of people. Come on, have so anybody else? Anybody wanna before we even go on to that? But these are points. People are like, yo, you're right. Oh man, dread is heavy. He's right. I never looked at it. God spelled backwards is dog. That's a heavy sign. He dropping some science. He's dropping some science. And this is what
in my opinion, and it's always been for the last over 20 years now, it's a practice of hatred, and it's a weed, it's a germ, it's a disease that is not needed when you're trying to build a people. How do you build a people through hatred? It is not possible to build a people through hatred. You build, only thing you're building is hatred. If you're practicing that, that's all it is. That's all I see in the conversation. You're trying to teach someone else to hate another group. Why is that necessary in order to build a nation?
That's a good point he brought out, Sister E, because y'all remember in them other videos, I often always try to say racism has no place in scholarship. We're doing the same thing that Europeans were doing during slavery, saying we weren't fully human. Oh, these blacks here, the slaves, because they wanted to justify themselves, the curses on them, or they're 3/5 of a man and all of this other stuff. It's the same thing. It's just the flip side of the same thing. Years later. Anybody else?
Is in you, is in me, is in him, is in everything.
God is in
The
everything.
Spirit encompasses everything, because everything is alive and moves.
What are we gonna do with that, Mr. Seminary up there? What are we gonna do with that? What's that word we looking for right there? He said God is in everything. God in me, God in you, God in the dog, God in the light, God in the tree, God in the ground, God in the water, God in the mountains. What are we gonna do with that right there? That's pantheism. When we say
pantheism, yeah, that's pantheism, man. That's like what the natives kind of like.
Excellent.
A lot of the natives would believe that God is in everything. God is in the trees, in the wind, in the universe, and the energy, and all these other different things. But what he's doing is he's throwing a bunch of just haymakers all over the place, and he's hitting them all over the place with a bunch of information and then misinformation. So he hits them with a little bit of truth and a whole bunch of lies. You know what I mean? So you take the little bit of truth and you might know this little bit of truth, and so anything else he says that's a lie.
Yes.
You're open. You're ready for it.
You're ready for it.
You think that's true too.
And that's how come we said it's a difference between a homily. He's giving a homily and a discourse. If we're talking and we're going back and forth, we're going to be back and forth. I'm not just going to let you have the floor, especially if I don't know you and that you just freestyle on me. No, that's a homily. I go to church and hear that from the pastor if he's spitting truth, if he's preaching truth. I'm not going to sit here and let you just put all of that, drop all of that on me without stopping you and questioning some of this stuff. And you brought out a good point. He's dealing with the Indians. Now, the other thing I want to share, Archie, listen to this. No Abrahamic faith. If you're dealing with Judaism and the Israelites, or if you're dealing with Muslims, if you're dealing with Christianity, if you're dealing with voodoo, let me get out the Israelites. If you're dealing with voodoo, they believe in angels, they believe in spirits, but they're not running around here, because we're going to get into the mystery God thing. They're not running around here saying God is in everything. The Abrahamic faiths don't accept that. So now he done ran to Hinduism. Now he done ran to the East. But he sound like what he's saying is heavy, because like Mark said, he gonna hit you with a little bit, and then whatever he say, he's just gonna throw everything at you. Anybody else?
Yeah, Brother Brown, to piggyback off what the brother just said and what you just talked about, him jumping from place. He's gone from just little things here and there. But a lot of the videos I see on YouTube is that they first start, like he started off with the agenda and works with the emotion of a lot of people, especially young black folks, period. But I think what I'm trying to say is I think that he opens them up emotionally to get them interested, you know, to either connect on a certain level or just to get their ear, and then throws in little things that they might have heard somewhere else that might sound good, and just lures them in through emotionalism, and then just throws any and everything in once they're completely open.
And you got to remember, the atmosphere is charged with this new age stuff. God is everywhere. God is love. There is no judgment. There is no hell. This thing is charged. White, I hope you're looking in the comments, because I can't, I can't.
You are part of the all, and the all is a part of you. That's why you are spirit and they are not. They cannot connect to spirituality because they don't have no spirit.
All right there. Hold on, Wilson. We'll work with that right there. We already know that white folk don't have no spirit. Where we get that from? Where he picking? Where they doing that at right there? He just came out and he said, we already know. He's making a statements like, yo, this is all known fact. This is scientific proof. This is already out there. And so it is what it is.
Yeah, you've been listening to the doctrine of the Nation of Islam.
A lot. We're gonna hear some more Nation. We're gonna hear some more Clarence, and we're gonna stop it and we're gonna bring it out. So he done hit us with. So he hit us with a little bit of Nation. He gonna give us some Clarence. He already hit us with the Indians. He done hit us with the East and Hinduism. We're gonna come back. We're coming up to that. We're gonna come up to some of that.
You are spirit having a human experience. The Creator put you here for a purpose. And your purpose in the flesh is to master the flesh. Once you master the flesh, you don't need to be here no more. They can't vibrate on the same level that you do.
All right, now we getting into vibrations and frequencies. You said you put here for a purpose. I know a lot of people that deal with the New Age movement, Mark, and he say, and they would say certain things. They would hit you with some book now. They would hit you with Jeremiah 1:5, before I knew thee, I formed thee. That children, that beings, that people pre-exist prior to coming into your mother's womb. When you're a child, your soul already exists. And to be honest, some church fathers have touched on that before. Do the soul exist prior to inhabiting a fleshly body and stuff like that? So he already brought that up. So this is more of that doctrine that he's sharing with them right now.
How are they gonna do that?
White people can't do it.
You are full human. They are not. They don't have the connection to the Creator that you have. That's why when you go and you look into the history and you go down, when they went to Kemet, they couldn't understand the spirituality of the African people. So that's why they make up this thing called Christianity, to take away your spirituality.
All right, then I'm gonna park that right there. That's why they made this thing up. First of all, a lot of people, they like mixing the history they want. When Alexander the Great came up in Kemet, came up in Egypt, the Persians were already running the show for 100 years. They welcomed him because he was a lesser of the two evils. But what do y'all think about that whole thing in general? Now he's jumping straight to Christianity. He done jumped 1,000 years. He done jumped about 800 years of history. Because Alexander and them came in, so later on, let's say 300 before the first century in Christ, and then, that's where they start getting to the Nicaea, that they mix the two together. What do y'all think about that in general?
Brother Beran, who is they?
He laughing. The white people, the wicked white people that came to take over the world.
Which ones?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Great point.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, if the black people was in Egypt and was in control of everything, which white people came in there and took over these gods?
If they were if Egypt was even all black, especially royalty, way down in the 33rd, 32nd, them dynasties, way down, they come on around later on. Anybody else?
This dude got a spirituality gumbo going on with a bunch of stuff that don't taste good.
That's what. But this is the thing. This is what making the talk so heavy. But my thing is now people get upset because I'm gonna tell you right now, Sister D, is he ready for John 3:16? He West End. A lot of West End, they grew up in Sunday school and all that. But is he ready for any book right now, or you got to deal with him on another level? Because the average person going to come and they're going to be quiet like that Christian brother right there, or they just going to tell him for God so loved. He ain't even ready for none of that right now. Not what he talking about. Anybody?
Another thing, man, is now he's getting to the point. Now he's diving into the man's faith, right? He's hitting him with haymakers all over the place, and now he's trying to hit to the mark, and the mark is his faith. He's trying to take him away from his faith, but when he said that's why they created Christianity, that's historically inaccurate. And that's when he should just stop it and pause it right there. Like, hold on, man. What do you mean they created Christianity? Because historically, Christianity wasn't even a power. It wasn't even a superpower. It was they were being tormented. They were being persecuted. They were being killed for their faith. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so when we start knocking them down, he started knocking down Nero and how Nero was burning down Christians at in Rome and using them as lamps. And when you start talking about how they were how the Jews were by Claudius were expelled from Rome and all these different things that the Romans, that the superpower was doing to Christians, it didn't even make sense. It don't even make sense that they created this to be a superpower when it was created, when it started, they were being persecuted and killed for centuries.
That's why that's why they weave in and out of history. That's why we got to stop them and deal more with history. We've been quoting a lot of books, but we got to explain how the thing came together. More of the history, more of the background. That's how come I tell people, a lot of pastors, they preach the Bible and teach the doctrines out of the Bible, but I talk about the Bible. Sister D, you got anything on this? Harris, you got anything on this? I can't see anybody in the screen, but y'all jump in any time.
I got one point to make, because that's that whole thing of the truth. We're too busy shouting them and making them pass out that our individuals or the body of Christ don't understand the history, going from the Old Testament until the New Testament, they're not being taught. So when you're dealing with someone like this, he will confuse you, and you won't even be able to truly defend what you believe in because you don't understand it.
That Sister D, I like what Wilson said before. He said we didn't have the need to, the devil wasn't attacking us like this back in the day. So we didn't even have a need for this level of apologetics right now. We're dealing with the history. That thing is important. What do you think about that? Anybody, what do y'all think about that? So it's just a new day. It's a new era. So we got to be a new method in the way people going in, dealing with that. Should they have role play? Don't worry about if it wasn't taught before, Harris. Just focus on getting that working and explaining to people right now how to handle this. This is what's out there. This is catching up of the millennials, so and everything else.
Yes,
I think.
What I noticed, some like I mentioned, some 20 years ago in the 90s, I was being attacked the same way this brother was being attacked, and I didn't know any better. I listened and I learned, and I took my faith and I moved on. But some stuff did stick with me. A lot of it stuck with me, and I think they have a lot to do with me being here in this class now, because there are some questions that some preachers either will not answer or cannot answer. So I have to seek. Over the years, I've seek for different answers outside of Christianity, and I believe that it wasn't as prevalent, but it was a birthing, and it was a variety of birthings through different belief systems or doctrines, as we call them. And I just think it just developed over a period of time to where it's very prevalent and in a lot of ways relevant to today's society that we're in.
I'm gonna tell y'all right now why he got me mad right now, Archie. He got me mad because he said it with conviction, and that's why I had to go outside of Christianity. Why we don't have researchers? Why we don't have a Professor Griff? They call him the Minister of Information. Why we don't have a Zaza Ali? Why do we have other people dealing with certain things? Why we got to go and listen? Because Omar Johnson, you can say what you want. Some things he bring out, there's a lot of truth in the conscious community. Now, we're going to be haters, and we're going to try to scare the sheep away from it and try to protect their ears. But like Wilson said, stuff going to come up on the thread.
Brother Berean. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, I think we should take into consideration that I'll call it the Black church was birthed out of ignorance. They were birthed out of not knowing how to read. They were birthed out of oppression. And a lot of times church would be the only thing that they had to smile about. And we kind of just continued in that tradition up into the information age, where now people who opinion wouldn't otherwise matter can go on the internet, share their opinion, and 1 million people can watch it the next day. And because a lot of other people don't have information, a lot of people transmitting this misinformation around. And so I don't think we could be upset with the Black church for not having the information. What we can do is respond to the fact that there's an attack on our faith. So rather than getting mad at people for not having information and looking at the pastors like they wasn't doing their job, they was doing their job and fighting their battle in their time. This is a new time. So those of us who God has given that drive and that will to get up and do what's necessary to be able to defend against these attacks on the faith, let's not, put down the preacher. Let's pick up and work with the preachers and say, hey, let me help you with this. Let me step in and share this. I ain't gotta be, you ain't gotta be the leader for this information. You gotta be a reader for this information to be able to use it. And that's what we're gonna have to do rather than knocking down people who didn't do it.
And I just want to say, and you guys are making good points. And I just want to kind of talk about how history has kind of changed hands. Like, we've gone from, the church being a place where, during the time of the civil rights fight, of being a place of equipping on how to, on social issues and things like that. So the church has always dealt with things in a way. It's just sort of catching up with, how do we now deal with the issues with people who look like us, trying to get us to believe otherwise. And so, while it seems like, we've never done anything, the truth is that it's just kind of, we were in front of the curve at one time and then behind the curve right now. And so while we were dealing with the issues of oppression and segregation and all these things, we kind of took a back seat and had good times while these things weren't on the forefront. But now that they're here, we're kind of being forced to address them due to the issues that we're seeing. And not everybody.
You heard that right, Sister D? When it comes down to it, we gotta always remember, no matter what, Archie, we gotta remember they still can't catch up to us. They talking a lot of stuff, but they can't catch up to them. No, they gotta wake up another 1,000 years before they think they can catch up to the church and the work that the Black church alone has put in. Let alone all the Europeans that's out there in the penitentiaries, putting in work, helping brothers learn how to read, helping brothers to come back into society, working with them throughout the country in the federal pens and all of that. Shout out to Chaplain putting in that work. I was talking to him. He said, man, it just hurts me that so many, brothers of African descent are in the penitentiaries, and the majority of the volunteers that's coming through doing so much are Europeans. Anybody else before I click this button?
And it goes back into those different waves of the churches in the Black community, because there was a time that the pastors were educated enough to be able to teach the flock and be able to really teach in the Black community, because I grew up in a church that taught the Bible. We had multiple Bible studies, Sunday school, all those type of things, so that we can ensure that we were equipped and we understood the Word of God. Now we've seen a shift to the more charismatic churches that teach certain excerpts from the Bible that deal with prosperity and those type of things. If they're not teaching the body, they're appeasing the body.
Okay, Mark, you think, all right, that could be that. All right, that's something right there. What do you think about that, Mark? Somebody said this is the first generation that the people in the pew are more educated than the pastors. I've heard a couple of things.
I think when we dealing with like Brother Wilson said, man, about just how we matured along the way, and how the church, the earlier Black church, come from slavery and come from preachers not knowing how to read, and just in that era and how it's been passed down. That's a good point, because we didn't have to defend the faith like we have to defend it now. Now, when we talk back to the early church fathers, we're talking about Tertullian and the defense of the Trinity, and Athanasius and Arius and the Nicene Council and those things. We see in the early church they did have to defend the faith against agnostics and Arians and just different other different beliefs that were going on back then, right? But when we go in from now thousands of years later, we got slavery, and then we're introduced kind of to the Christian faith a little bit here in America, and then we have to kind of learn the Word of God and really not have, not everybody black was in the Word of God. I mean, everybody black was a Christian. You know what I'm saying? So there wasn't a whole bunch of different belief systems until the age of information came, and all this misinformation comes out. And so that's a problem that we now God is raising up apologists, urban apologists to dive into these issues, and everybody doesn't have the desire either. I believe that God has to give you the desire to actually want to do apologetics. Like, I teach apologetic classes, and there's some people that just don't want to hear it. Like, man, y'all not talking to y'all. I tell them, look, we're not even going to look in the Bible. We're going to look outside, and we're going to do evidence. We're going to do that. We're not even going to touch the Bible unless we have to, right? But there's some people that just like, I don't want nothing to do with it if it ain't got to do with the Bible. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's okay. But I think that everybody that God doesn't give everybody that desire. And another thing, I think that when we are scared to address the whitewashing of Christianity, when we get scared to address certain issues, social injustice, when we're scared to engage in that and say, okay, you got a fact there, because I do remember being in prison, and I seen how they were rounding us up and locking us up, and with the conspiracy cases, lock up 20 at one with one case, the Freeway Ricky Ross Contra era, that era, and the Black Panther era. You know what I mean? How they try to neutralize our communities. So that we have to admit, and we have to engage on that, and really say, okay, that's something that is true, and not be afraid to engage in that.
You ain't lying about that. Excellent point. Anybody else? Before I go on, I'm gonna let it run. We started a little bit late, but I'm gonna let a couple of minutes, a good 5 minutes, 10 minutes of this run, so y'all can hear some more where he's going, because people have to be up on it. I like what he said. It got to be in your heart. Archie, it got to be in your heart. Harris, you can say what you want to say. This right here, Norman Geisler, Lee, Ravi Zachariah, this ain't James White and them right here. Not this what's going on right here. This is a whole different level of apologetics right here. And they've been doing apologetics, and they're good for their area and their time. But this is a whole different thing that's been moving and moving and moving, and people haven't been stepping up and giving an answer. So we're gonna let me get to hitting this right here. We're gonna I'm gonna let it run for a couple minutes.
But they remove you from your spiritual self, and now you're dependent on one person and this invisible God. You see, we're not connecting the dots. You're dependent on an invisible God and this person named Jesus, and supposedly all these angels, okay, because they have to separate you from the self in order for them to trick you. So when they give you a thing called Christianity, you give up your spirituality.
I'm a Christian,
right?
I believe in Jesus. I think that I don't know. I feel like they have misrepresented Christianity, but they haven't represented it the right way, and I think that kind of gives it a bad name because they represent it the wrong way. I don't think that misrepresents the Bible and Jesus, but that's just they misuse it and they haven't represented the right way.
You have to be able to articulate. He's talking about the whitewashing of Christianity. You have to definitely be able to articulate what you believe, even without using the Bible. That would offend some believers, but you have to do it in a historical sense. in a historical sense. And he, you know, he stopped him and he said, you know, I believe A, B, C, and D. But the first thing he run to is the mystery God. If you're dealing with voodoo, they believe in God, demons, angels, and all of that stuff. People that deal with the ancestors, like I said, all the Abrahamic faith, but he's running to what the 5%ers used to give us back in the days. Oh, the mystery God. You believe in an unseen God. Hinduism, the majority of the planet believe in an unseen God and the ancestors and the spirit realm. So what special is that he's saying? But once again, he want to sound like, listen, I'm locking you into logic. We're smarter than that. Anybody? I said I was going to let it go, but I had to stop and see what y'all had to say on that right there. This is just vetting it.
Know that the Pope actually come out and tell you that there's never been a man named Jesus Christ that walked here?
When?
Okay, do you know that Pope also come out and said there's never been a place called hell? Okay. My brother, let me say this to you. You have to ask yourself, because Christianity was beaten to African people. It was actually beaten to your ancestors.
When?
This one of the slave ships that the Queen of England sent to Africa to bring slave to the Western world, his name was Jesus. Also, there was a ship called John the Baptist. There was churches on top of the slave castles in Ghana, if you go there right now, and still there. What I'm saying to you is African people are spiritual people. It's a big difference from spirituality. All right, here's a situation. Me and a brother was having a discussion because I grew up in church. I used to be a Christian, okay? In the Bible, this brother came to me last night and we were talking because he started to find out a lot of stuff that he always have question in his mind about. And last night we were talking, and in the Bible it says when Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel, and he said those were the only people existing on the earth. Okay? Cain killed his brother Abel. The Bible says that after that he went to the east of the garden and he found a wife for himself.
Where's that?
He also said in Genesis chapter 4 that he should not enter into the land of Nod for fear that they would kill him. Who are they? And then he also says that he should go to the city of refuge.
Wait a minute, this city of refuge stuff. They'll take a story and mix the story up, and I'll let it ride, and I'm going to see what y'all say. Was there even a city of refuge then? But the story's going to get deeper. But I'm going to stop it right here. Do y'all see anything that's wrong with anything that was said?
Everything.
Okay, all right, hold on. Don't say she said everything. Just bring out one. She said everything.
I mean,
you see the Sunday school stuff he dealing with? You see why people grow up, they go to Sunday school, they hear stories, Cain and Abel. He said nobody else was on the earth. Where did his wife come from? And these are the same questions, but grown folk got questions. Because in the groups that we're in on Facebook, they go, well, I'm seeing that at least once or twice a week. Where did Cain get his wife from? Cain killed Abel. Where did he get his wife from?
That sounds like Mormons. Mormons came up with that whole concept of Cain and Abel. Other than, you know, Mormons came up with the concept that Cain was black. But I mean, it shows even in the body of Christ or Christianity, there's some misunderstandings or poor doctrine. But yeah, it sounds like it's a little bit of the Mormonism thrown in there, talking about Cain and who were the descendants of Cain. So,
but no matter what, to grown people, the story don't make sense because they want to know where other people were from. Anybody else?
Brother Berea, he eisegeting the text and putting stuff in there. There's not, it doesn't say that Cain and Abel and Adam and Eve were the only people.
No, exactly. Excellent.
It doesn't say that. So he's putting that there, and it doesn't say that.
And he grew up hearing that and thinking that, but he sounds like he's being logical by bringing that out because, like I said, even on Facebook in our groups, I'm hearing this once a week. Somebody's posting this. People always sending that to me. They always sending that to me. But what do you think about that? What should you do with that? Should he stop the brother now that he's getting into his book now? Should the brother be stopping him more and be like, all right, let's go back. What are you talking about, a city of refuge? Where was the city of refuge at?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's why he left the door wide open to start diving in now. Now it's kind of start swinging back, you know, about the historicity of Jesus. It's time to start swinging about the biblical text, about like Brother Wilson said, what's in the text and how he eisegete the text like that. Where's refuge? I mean, everything that he was just saying, then it's kind of start swinging back. Like, bro, that, you know, that's inaccurate. You know
and he feel good now because he's letting him. He know he got him because he's talking and he ain't stopping him about no primary. Where you get that from? He know he got him. Look at it. He know he got him because he's giving it to him because he's not being challenged. Anybody else? Because y'all ain't heard nothing yet. I'm trying to. I didn't know we were gonna do this. I should have knew. How long we been on so far? Can anybody tell? Because I can't even see. I can't even see on my thing.
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half, exactly. All right, all right. We might have to just pick up on this later on. But anybody else in any words in closing? Let's just put it that way. We can pick back up on this. Any words in closing? What do you think people need to? Because it's a lot going on out here. What do you think these people need to? Where we need to go with this? That's it. That's something. That's good right there. That's my question, Sister D. Where we need to go with this? This going out to people. Some people gonna hear this and they're gonna feel shook about some stuff that they heard. Other people gonna be like, it's all Berean. I figure they're gonna just pick it up and they're gonna keep rocking and we'll figure something out. Because some just added more questions, man. I'm listening to what he's saying, I'm listening to what they're saying too. But I always thought about Cain and Abel and what happened.
Brother Berean.
Yes, sir.
I can what I think we should do, I know from speaking from my generation, anybody, but especially for my generation now, the millennials or the younger folks, that to do your own research. And classes like this, you can be open to talk instead of a environment like the brother was talking about, where you're forced to listen. Because we're gonna have these questions regardless, either now or later, and instead of just going off of what it sounded like the brother in the video was just the Christianity that was given to him, he don't have stuff to hit back with. So I would just say, especially for our generation, do our own studying and ask questions. Don't feel afraid to not ask questions just because you ain't heard it before. So just do your own research.
We got to have safe places for them to ask questions too. Anybody else? Wilson Moore?
Yeah, I wanna add to that too, man. And what Brother Wilson said about you don't need to be a leader just to be just a reader, and that how churches, even the pastors, they should start implementing apologetics within the church. You know what I mean? Bring a brother, one of the brothers that's really studied up in apologetics that can really teach. It don't have to be the pastor. You know what I'm saying? But just to have a brother to assign and start having classes and inside the church. You know what I'm saying? Not like a Bible study class, the straight apologetics class. And I think that if we start equipping believers, then when we have millennials or when we have people that come and ask those questions, we can answer those questions. We have a response. You know what I mean? And I think that's what it is, because we're past the era of the Bible told me, because the Bible says so. You know what I mean? And people have all this misinformation coming in. We got technology and we got millennials that are very intelligent, and they're very resourceful, and they're trying to and they're like a sponge. They're trying to get as much information as possible. You know what I'm saying? But if we are able to give a defense, if we are able to train them up, then whenever they go out and they're addressing or engaged with these questions, they have a response, and they're not just sitting here like my man is right here, just being quiet and letting dude just kind of throw haymakers. I tell people all the time, like sometimes the debate or the dialogue you're having is not for that person, but it's for the people that's around, that's listening to the dialogue. You know what I'm saying? Because when people are around, because I debate in the barbershop all the time with atheists, Kemet dudes, and I just bring historical facts, and they don't. Every time I come in, we getting at it. And when I leave, I'm praying for people. You see what I'm saying? When I'm leaving, people are giving me numbers. Hey man, can you give me a call? You see what I'm saying? Because it's not actually about the person. Sometimes that person is not going to come to Christ. You see what I'm saying? The person that you're actually dialoguing with, but it's the people that's around, that's listening, that when you give a good argument or you make a factual argument, they're like, oh, that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? He just hit him with some facts. You see what I'm saying? And when you can dissect their argument down and say, man, that's just hogwash. Everything you're saying, you know what I mean? You have a point there, but this is not a point. That's a lie. Where's your primary sources? When you ask for primary sources, when you ask for any resources, cite your sources, and they can't do it, and then you can start citing your sources. I mean, just being equipped, man. I think we have to be equipped and equip others. You know what I mean? Within the body, within the churches. You know what I'm saying?
I like what I just seen Sister E put down there. It got to be even in straight history. People got to be ministers of history, ministers of research. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody want to put a collar on and touch that microphone and all that. This is a new day. This is a new day. We got people that need to be specialists in different areas. People say, how can I get in there? If you know how to write research papers, if you know how to do research, you can get out there and teach the young ones that want to do that, that want to get into that. In closing, you want to say something, Sister D? Before Harris, then Harris next.
I got one.
Not that Hebrew Pentecost. No. Hold on a minute. Sister D, you got something before this one get to running off. I agree with what she said. It got to be some people teaching straight history.
Absolutely, and I do agree definitely that there needs to be more specialists than generalists. I think that preachers, church period, we've been generalists. We've been trying to hit every topic from children's church to elders ministry. It's just too much. But today, there is such availability of information, as we already said. Everyone's already agreed to that. Scripture says, in the latter days, knowledge will increase. So there still needs to be people willing to plug into a specific area. Now, I can't do everything. I can't do Kemet. I can't do Hinduism. I can't do Gnosticism and Voodoo. I can't do it all. But I need to find one place where I can specialize, and that's just like a doctor. I had to go to my eye doctor yesterday. So that's one reason why I'm not visible, because I look ugly. My eye looks horrible. But I had to go to a specialist. I could not go to my primary care doctor to take care of this particular situation. That particular ophthalmologist was so glad I came in, and I'm glad I showed up when I did, because he's a specialist. He's an expert in his craft. He didn't just practice medicine on me. He actually gave me a solution. He diagnosed, gave me a solution. I mean, he talked all of that medical talk, but then I said it back to him in layman's terminology. He knew that I had it. So it's the same thing that we got to do with dealing with someone like this brother Keston. I would have gotten impatient with him and cut him off in a minute, in a heartbeat. I would have got to go, where are you going with this? What are you bringing up City of Refuge? Why are you bringing up Nod? Are you going to sleep on me? You nodding on me? What you bringing this up for? Where are you going, brother, with this? I would have cut him off because I have ADHD. I would have, I would have just like, I don't have time. I would have looked at my watch and said, where are we going with this, brother? And then I would have hit him, Brother White. I would have hit him, then getting him back on track and attacking the fact that Christianity is stripping us of our spirituality. I would have brought him back.
Excellent point. Listen, you could say what you want, Harris, but that brother, maybe he wasn't getting it, so he's into history, and he was a believer, so he showed up. I see African artifacts in the back, whatever it is, was a little art house that they had a lecture, and, somebody spoke, and it was afterward. Maybe that same guy spoke, and they were dialoguing afterwards. He showed up there because apparently he's not getting it anywhere else, but he's into that history. Even when we started getting into the video later on with Ray Hagan, he was saying, listen, I was always inquisitive. I was the one that always used to ask questions. There's people that have that inside of them. Come on, Harris, you got the floor, and Sister E gonna
in response to what you're saying, I believe that embracing your culture, especially us African Americans, we should definitely embrace our culture, because we have this golden opportunity to reconnect with our culture because of the technology and actually our finances and freedom has been gained to a certain extent. So yeah, embracing our culture is a really beautiful thing. As a solution, all of what's been said are great solutions. To add to that, I believe that we need, as urban apologists, we need to set up a template. What do I mean by template? A certain way or certain information that we know the answers to, because we constantly run into the same questions, the same dialogue, the same circumstances over and over again which we, the 9 of us, know pretty much the answers to. So if we have, like you were taking us through that video,
like catechism,
break down
like questions and answers, like the lesson, like
different conversations. Say it again.
I said like catechism, questions and answers.
So we were able to break
for believers.
Exactly. So if I have that piece of paper and I can identify that conversation, I instantly know where I can go and find those answers. I instantly know the library that's online or that's available for me to go and pull that book and do that particular research on that particular topic. Or if they are bouncing around with a variety of different types, you know, like we constantly hear with different types of theology or doctrine, we know what it's all about because we have a set up template that each and every one of us can take wherever we go and we spread it among other believers. And that way, when they're exposed to this type of philosophy, we have some other believers have some idea on how to approach these different things.
Excellent, especially that the thing is brand new. Anybody else? Kenneth, I don't know you driving. I don't know you can't. You're the only one that didn't say okay. Oh no, I said Sister E. I'm sorry. All right, y'all. Sister E, you got the flow.
It's not gonna be that bad. I don't think, but I really don't care. But I mean, I agree with what is it? The messenger said. Mm-hmm. I do believe that we need to come together, but I think we need to stop acting in silos either. I mean, also, because we have a tendency to say urban apologetics, but you have a whole nother group, and you know I'm going to always be the advocate for my boys, the Israelite boys. Because some of them, when you talk about the ones that walk and believe in Jesus Christ, those individuals have knowledge too, and they can get our kids equipped so that if they do decide to walk down that path, that they don't get tripped up by the camps. Because like I said, people like Majors and Kelly and those other guys in Omar, they're going to teach. Those camps are dangerous. So when I see us separated, I think we would be stronger if we were together. And when I say together, I mean the ones that believe in Christ. If it be an apologetic or it be an Israelite. That's where our strength is going to draw from. As long as the apologetics are on one side and the Israelites on the other side, you'll never see strength in it. You'll never see strength in it. So that's my whole point.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Somebody want to answer or speak to that, or who else I see here? Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that we start to be able to engage the attacks against the church. Like the messenger said, it has to be recognized that there is an attack against the church, and then we gotta respond to that attack. The church has been under attack many times before. It looked like it was gonna take a loss, but then it didn't lose because we can't lose with the stuff we use to use one of those terms that we have in church. But yeah, we gotta start responding to stuff like this, and especially with this. I don't even know what you call that. What he was doing, the potluck message.
That sacredness where they're just mixing everything together.
It's almost frustrating to listen to. Like you can't tie him down because he's running all over the place.
All over the place. They all over.
Squirrel message.
And that's making it even harder. I like what Sister D said. You can say what you want, White. Sister D said, listen, I can't specialize in everything. Some people, y'all just get that nation. The more signs come, y'all just get whatever y'all can get and start just going in right there. Because when they all over the place like that, it's going to take years for somebody that's already been involved in it to come out and doing all that. And maybe that can get people scared, but everybody can grab an area. Let me specialize. Let me deal with the slave trade. Let me deal with the slave narrative. Let me just specialize in that so I can prove it wasn't beaten to us. Let me just deal with that right there. Because boy, he ain't lying. This is what it is, and they mixing it all up. They mixed it with Hinduism and Egypt and some Native American, and they're just going in hard. They putting that work in like that. White, you want to White or Archie? I'm not sure who's next. I don't can't really.
I just want to say that I agree with everything that was said, and I think that the biggest thing is that we a lot of times we're only responding to what the issues are instead of seeing what issues have already hit in certain areas and certain churches and saying, hey, let's go ahead and do this before it's an issue in our church or an issue in our city. And so I think that we have to stop being reactionary and, going after and having this information before and always being ready to give an answer as the Bible teaches.
Okay, all right, I agree with that, Archie. Let me say, you want to say one thing? I want to just what would you say, Archie, or maybe like to the people that be like, because you got your own black people that be like, listen, that don't have nothing to do with nothing. That don't have nothing to do with Jesus. Let's stop all of this culture stuff. If everybody will put down the pride in their culture and where they come from, if they just put that down, we'll be all right. Maybe Mark can speak to that one too before we close out.
I think that goes back to just doing your own research, and what I mean by that is, what the Christian faith. I know a lot of people are introduced to, if they didn't come up in the church or what have you, is the westernized, whitewashing Christianity, and don't know that doing your history on your culture and doing church history aren't always opposites. That they go more hand in hand than what we've been taught, and that's just personal for me too. Just having a desire to really learn where I come from, my background, and getting deeper into church history. That those two things go hand in hand. Those aren't opposed to each other. And that just goes back to doing your own research and not like the old saying goes, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And with young people that's willing to learn, and as the message was talking about, us being a sponge. If we're not soaking up, we're gonna soak up something. We're gonna soak up something, and if we're not, rooted in the truth, there's a lot of false stuff going around. So just doing your own research, I would say.
We definitely got to put that work in. That's something I said. We're gonna be putting videos out. We're gonna spread this on Facebook, spread it on YouTube or whatever. Hopefully I told everybody that this one here, we are loading this one up right here. You could stop the recording right now.